Games that put up a fight aren't everyone's cup of tea, but there's a strange allure to those experiences that appeals massively to no few people. Sure, not every game that tries to go down that route is able to do it well. Getting the balance right when it comes to difficulty is easier said than done, as more than a few games have proven over time. But even when certain hurdles look like frustratingly impossible roadblocks, we can't help but keep banging our heads against them. Here, we're going to take a look at a few third-person shooters that delivered challenging experiences of that variety, some in ways that were fair and well-balanced, and others, well, not so much. RETURNAL. One of the more recent releases in this feature, and also one of the more obvious entries, Housemarque has always been known for developing old-school arcade bullet hell shooters that aren't afraid of testing the skills of their players and pushing them to the absolute limits. And RETURNAL translates that formula into a full-blown AAA 3D experience perfectly. From the very first second right up until the last, this is a game that can be extremely punishing. But overcoming the challenges it throws at you never fails to delight, thanks to its tight shooting and movement mechanics, its perfectly balanced roguelike structure, and its progression mechanics, which strike the perfect balance between progress resets and permanent upgrades. It's not for the faint of heart, no, but if you do like a little bit of challenge in your games, RETURNAL is unmissable. VANQUISH. One of several titles developed by Platinum Games that never quite got the success and recognition that it deserved, VANQUISH is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the most thrilling third-person shooters you'll ever play. Like so many other games made by Platinum, it's overflowing with style and personality, and provides players with all the tools they need to feel like absolute badasses. Of course, properly utilizing these tools is easier said than done. VANQUISH can be a very difficult game at times, even when playing on the default difficulty setting. But once you settle into the groove of its moment-to-moment gameplay, it's hard not to have a blast as you slide around on your knees and rip your enemies to shreds. Jak 2. Jak 2's pivot from being a mascot platformer like its predecessor was to turning it into almost an all-out third-person shooter was a strange one on paper. But as history books have made it clear by now, it was one that worked. And one of several factors that contributed to its nailing its gameplay fundamentals was just how challenging it could be when it wanted to be. In retrospect, some of the game's most difficult stages probably could have been balanced better, but there were also more than a few sections in the game that put up a formidable fight, and did it in a very fair way. 50 Cent Bulletproof. Of the games we've spoken about so far in this feature, 50 Cent Bulletproof is definitely the odd one out, and in more ways than one. For starters, it wasn't a very good game, even though there are certainly plenty of people out there who have quite a bit of nostalgia for it. More importantly for this feature though, its difficulty wasn't the sort that one might call well balanced. Most of the roadblocks the game put up were as challenging as they were due to poor design decisions and issues with the core gameplay itself. And navigating those issues were the real challenge more than anything else. Even so, if you're looking for a shooter that isn't afraid to frustrate its players, this one very much fits the bill. The Thing. The Thing may not have gone down in the history books as a titan of its genre, but as those who have played it will gladly tell you, it's certainly one of the more unique games of its kind. Part of that is because of how it approaches difficulty. Not only is its challenges derived in the traditional ways you'd expect from a game, it also demands the players take their squad mates into account. If you're behaving strangely or not doing things the way that you should, you can actually turn your allies against you, adding even more complications to an already hectic shooter. Playing the game is a fine balancing act, and though it hasn't aged particularly well, which isn't surprising considering the fact that it's over 2 decades old at this point, it still gets brownie points for its unique ideas. The Division 2. The Division 2's difficulty curve isn't a flat one by any means. There's plenty of parts in the game that aren't particularly hard, but by that same token, there are others that can take you by surprise with just how much of a fight they put up. Massive Entertainment's open-world looter shooter does an excellent job of throwing a vast variety of enemies your way, each coming with their own strengths and weaknesses, and each requiring to be dealt with in specific ways. In the truly hectic encounters where you're being swarmed by large groups of many different kinds of foes, juggling all of them at the same time without incurring too much damage yourself can be quite complicated, especially if you're playing solo. Remnant from the Ashes. This one was another obvious pick for the list. Remnant from the Ashes is essentially a Souls-like title, even though its primary form of engaging in combat is shooting at enemies rather than hacking at them with melee weapons. Every enemy encounter feels like a true test of your skills, and a single mistake or slip can prove to be devastatingly costly. Like most games of its ilk, Remnant strikes the perfect balance between challenging and fair, so that overcoming each obstacle brings an incredible sense of satisfaction. We can only hope that its sequel follows in its footsteps and delivers a similarly intense experience. Max Payne 3. Max Payne 3 ranks as one of the best third-person shooters ever made, and its difficulty contributes to that significantly. Back when it launched, in fact, it was almost surprising just how challenging it was. Not unsurpassable by any means, no, but not afraid to push you to your limits on more than a few occasions. Taking cover and making use of the game's excellent movement options is key in every single firefight, each of which strikes the perfect balance between being incredibly cinematic and incredibly tactical. What's even more impressive is that, for the most part, all of that is true even when you play the game on its default difficulty setting. Metal Arms Glitch in the System. Metal Arms Glitch in the System is definitely one of the lesser-known games in the list, but those who have played it will attest to just how ridiculously difficult it could be from time to time. It wasn't a consistently grueling game by any means, but when those difficulty spikes came, boy did they knock the wind out of you. Metal Arms had an incredible knack for flooding areas full of variety of enemies that would work together to take you down in the most nightmarish ways possible, and juggling all of those simultaneous challenges together could often lead to dangerous spikes in your blood pressure. Risk of Rain 2. Going from side-scrolling gameplay to third-person action was a bold move for Risk of Rain 2, but obviously it paid off in spades. And though there was plenty here that felt radically different from the original game, one aspect that was retained almost perfectly was just how insanely hectic its firefights could be. Of course, many would argue that that's the true hallmark of a good roguelike shooter, and Risk of Rain 2 certainly excels in this kind of area more than most other games of its kind. Regardless of which location you're playing in, what character you're playing as, or what your current build is, this is a game that never fails to challenge its players in the most extreme ways possible. Hey, did you know that we at GamingBolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.